everybody, this is D Hunter bringing another action figure review. Today we're going to be looking at the DC Collectibles DC Essentials Knightfall Batman action figure. Now this is finally the second Batman figure they've made in the DC Essentials line. I'm pretty excited for this Batman figure as Knightfall is one of my favorite Batman stories. When I was a kid, Knightfall was one of the first graphic novels that I ever received. I was already into Batman from different various incarnations, but Knightfall was what really got me into reading comics. This guy here is in his traditional classic 90s Batman outfit. The blue, the gray, he's got the shorts on the outside, and the yellow oval around the bat signal. So let's go ahead and check out this packaging here. Like I said before, DC Collectibles, direct from the source, meaning that DC Comics actually makes the DC Collectibles figures. This will be the 21st figure in the DC Essentials line. See Batman in there in his classic look, looking fantastic if you ask me. DC Essentials, Knightfall Batman. Top here, got a little bit of a Knightfall logo. One side, here's the figure posed up. Other side, really nothing going on there. The bottom, we do have a barcode in case anybody needs that, as well as some credits. On the back side here, see Batman, the action figure posed up, as well as the rest of the figures in the wave. We've got Sinestro, Hal Jordan, and Nightfall Catwoman. Catwoman is the only other figure in the wave I had interest in, as my collection is predominantly Batman related. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And this figure did come in a big haul from DCBService.com. That stands for Discount Comic Book Service.com. I pre-order all my DC Collectibles figures from them because DC Collectibles wants $20 a figure, which is absolutely outrageous. You can get them for 33% off as long as you pre-order them ahead of time from DCBService.com. That made these figures $19 each, which is actually cheaper than the Mattel or the McFarlane Multiverse figures. And I did get two of each of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, and one of which to keep in my complete 6 and 7 inch Batman-related action figure collection that are unopened. Here they are, taking their rightful place in front of my Batman comics, with some of the other DC Essentials figures, and other recently acquired Batman action figures. Now, I've always been a big fan of the Batman Knightfall saga, and I know not everybody is. Some people think it's stupid or gimmicky, and I'll say it is kind of gimmicky. Batman gets his back broken, he gets replaced by a different character, not Bruce Wayne, acting as Batman. That is not something I'm particularly fond of, but this is the first time they've ever done something like this. This was sort of Batman's answer to the death and return of Superman, but they did it better. In Knightfall, they explore Batman becoming weakened over the years of crime fighting. He's on the verge of exhaustion. He finally gets beaten. Someone figures out his identity who's just about as smart as him. It's a pretty good saga. I like this period of comics in the 90s. Tim Drake Robin, the artwork was good. The way they portrayed the villains and wrote Bane was excellent. You had all Batman's rogues, which is pretty cool. In front of you here are two graphic novels that I still have from when I was a kid. Here's Knightfall Part 1. You can even see it's got stains on it. It's all beat up. This is the same one I had from my childhood. And here we go, Knightfall Book 2, when Azrael takes over. And then here in front of you are some new releases of the Knightfall saga. From left to right, we've got Prelude to Knightfall, all the books leading up to it. This includes Killer Croc fighting Bane, Bane injecting Riddler with Venom, all kind of stories that are showing Batman's exhaustion leading up to Knightfall. Then we've got Knightfall Volume 1, Knightfall Volume 2, Night Quest, The Crusade Volume 1, and I do actually believe there are two other Night Quest books I need to get to complete this saga. And we've got Batman Knight's End. And of course, I have all the single issues of Knightfall as well. This saga went between Batman, Detective Comics, and Shadow of the Bat. This led up to Batman number 500, which is a pretty big deal. 500 issues of Batman, different person besides Bruce Wayne, donning the mantle of the Bat. All the rogues you can imagine. Pretty cool saga. I also have all the single issues from Night Quest, both The Crusade and The Search. Night Quest The Crusade was all about Azrael as Batman and his activities. And Night Quest The Search was all about a broken Bruce Wayne searching for purpose and for some healing. This story went between Batman Comics, Detective Comics, Shadow of the Bat, Legends of the Dark Knight, Robin, and Justice League Task Force. And of course, I'm not going to have the Nightfall and Night Quest saga without also having Night's End. Here are all these single issues for Night's End. During Night Quest, Bruce Wayne, as he was crippled, was traveling the world. He ended up healing himself, and he had decided to let Jean-Paul Valley continue as Batman until he found out that Jean-Paul Valley had crossed the line and was killing people. He came back, overthrew Jean-Paul Valley, and became Batman again. And Jean-Paul Valley actually became his ally as Azrael in the future comics. Night's End went between Batman, Detective Comics, Shadow of the Bat, Legends of the Dark Knight, Robin, and Catwoman books. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all of his accessories laid out. And that was kind of a joke, as he comes with no accessories, which is one of the bad things about this figure. So let's go ahead and look at the figure. So this here is an amazing Batman figure. This guy here can be your 70s, 80s, or 90s classic Batman. First of all, look at his face. He's got the long ears, the bright blue colors, completely white eyes. He's got that frown. His jaw's not too square. I mean, I think it looks excellent. This is my Batman. This is the era of Batman that I liked. The blue, the gray, the bat. Look at his bat symbol. It's got the yellow oval around it. I mean, classic comics, but we're not talking Golden Age, Silver Age. We're talking classic, modern age Batman. He's definitely made with the same body as the previous DC Essentials Batman, and it works. Look at his belt, bright yellow, colors pop. He's got the capsules on his utility belt. Really, really liking it. 2 hands, both fists. That is really annoying. I would have loved to have had at least one gripping hand. Now I've seen a ton of people complain about his gauntlets. They have those lines through them like the Rebirth Batman. It is barely noticeable. I'm not sure if I would have even noticed them by now if it hadn't been pointed out so much. People being a little bit overdramatic about it. I do understand it's lazy reuse, but then we got his blue trunks here. You can see a little bit of blue on the top of his leg. Kind of looks like a Speedo. Almost feels like maybe they should have put more blue here or none at all. Ton of articulation on this guy. His boots look great. They're sculpted. I believe there's a boot cut in there. I mean, this is my Batman. This is my Batman figure. He looks fantastic. Classic, normal, well-articulated Batman. Why did it take them so long to make a figure like this? Love the fact that they're making Nightfall figures 25 years later. That is absolutely fantastic. And then here he is, broken down as far as he can go with all of his removable parts detached. You can take his hands out with ease. You don't have to heat anything up. Same with his head, and even same with his cape. It's possible maybe this had a tiny bit of glue on it. Mine came off with complete ease. Now, I really don't have a good explanation as to why the DC Essentials figures have removable hands and heads, seeing as how almost none of them come with alternate hands or heads. Makes me think that they originally planned to come with more accessories, and DC Collectibles cheaped out and removed them, but who really knows? Here he is, wielding both of his fists. Normally this would be the part of the video that I show him with all the different hands. Unfortunately, he does not have any, and this makes the figure suffer quite a bit. 2 fists are pretty annoying with Batman. He needs at least 1 gripping hand. If he's only going to come with 1 pair of hands, give me 2 gripping hands that are semi-open and can double up his fists, please. Now you can very easily swap out the previous DC Essentials Rebirth Batman's hand with this guy's hand, but there's a couple of very obvious reasons why this is a problem. First of all, the blue they use is different. You can see this guy here, it doesn't look right. That was my immediate thought was, oh, I'm just going to switch it with the old DC Essentials Batman. Well, I'd have to repaint both this hand and this guy's fisted hand to go onto the other Batman. He also has some lines on the hand, so if I were to do this, I'd really have to switch out both hands, repaint them both, repaint both sets, and then put into the other Batman. Really, it's a big pain, but somehow this guy has to have at least 1 open hand. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm liking this guy so much. I feel like he might be my favorite Batman figure that I own. And I have got hundreds of Batman figures. The reason I like him so much, he's just a classic, standard, proper color Batman that is well articulated. They've made blue and gray Batmans before, but either they were old from DC Direct and sort of statuesque, or they were Mattel, which I do enjoy the DC Universe Classics, but boy, this guy here is just great. Look at him, he's well proportioned, realistic-ish looking, straight from the pages of Knightfall. Exactly the kind of Batman that I want, and I hope they make more figures like this. So next, let's check out the height of this figure. This guy is from DC Collectibles. They typically make figures in the 7-inch scale. So from bottom to the top of his head, this guy's sitting at just about 7.0 inches, which would translate to about 17.5 centimeters. If you go to the top of the ears, about 7.25 inches. Next, I'll check out this guy's articulation. And if you have any of the other DC Essentials figures, this will be no surprise to you. He has pretty much every bit of articulation the other figures do. Pretty standard at this point. So let's go and start off with his head here. His head can rotate from side to side, no problem. And his neck has a great range of motion. I couldn't really get to move much at first, so I took the head off, and I thought to myself, this thing should move a lot more than it does. Put him in some hot water, was able to free this thing up. Now, this guy's head can move that far down, which is amazing. I mean, look at that. And that far up. This guy has a lot of personality. He can tilt his head a little bit, rotate it around. Really, really liking the features of this guy so far. Shoulders on a ball joint. They go out pretty much a full 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows below that. His wrist can rotate around, and it's hinged as well. He's got a traditional type of ab crunch here. Go in quite a bit. Back quite a bit as well. Got a traditional waist swivel below that, but it doesn't go all the way around. This is as far as it's going to take you either direction. His legs go out quite a bit further than I expected. Full 90 degrees, splits, no problem. Ball joint side of there. Then go forward, almost a full 90 degrees. Then go back, really not too much. He's got a thigh cut below that. Double jointed knees below that. He's got a shin boot cut here. His feet can go up and down. There is a ball here between the shin and foot area. You can rotate them around, and if you wanted them to rock, you'd have to rotate the ball to the side, kind of hold it in place, put the foot back, and then you'd be able to rock it back and forth. This is the same type of articulation that the McFarlane figures have, and all the DC Essentials figures. It works, it can do a lot of things, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to do exactly what you want it to do. And while we're on the subject of articulation, I was curious, how can this guy do sitting down? And obviously, if you have to remove his cape, he has a soft goods cape that would interfere with him sitting down. But if you were to take his cape off, or possibly mod this guy with a cloth cape, he sits down just fine. It looks excellent in the Batcave here. Next, I would like to look at reuse, see how much of this Batman figure is reused from previous figures from the DC Essentials line. So, starting with his feet. Feet are definitely identical, 100% to the boots. His entire leg is the same sculpt. You can totally see the muscle there is the same. His hands are different. They don't have the lines on it like the Rebirth Batman. His gauntlets are the same. His arms are completely the same, minus the hands. The crotch area is the same. The ab and chest area is the same. Of course, this guy has a different belt on him. The cape is even the same. Obviously, the heads are different. So these guys are literally the same figure, minus the hands, head, and belt. And while we're looking at reuse, you got to call out the entire DC Essentials line. Pretty much every single one of these figures in front of you shares the exact same body, legs, chest, crotch, arms. I mean, their feet may be a little bit different. Of course, their heads. DC Essentials is notorious for reusing parts. I don't have Green Lantern, Sinestro, Superman, Flash, or Reverse Flash, but I'm about 99% sure they're going to use the exact same bodies as well. And you know what? I think it works. These figures look different. They all look great if you ask me. I am a big fan of the DC Essentials line. Next, let's check this guy out compared with some of their action figures. Starting off by checking him out with some of their DC Essentials figures. We've already taken a pretty close look at this Batman next to the Rebirth Batman. DC Essentials has been out for better part of 2 years now. It's about time they gave us another Batman. We do have 2 more Batmans on the horizon. Of course, using the exact same body. I believe there's a New 52 Batman. And then we've got a zombified Batman from DCeased. Looking really forward to the zombie Batman, as he can double up as a beat-up, bloodied Batman in my action figure world. Here he is, next to the only other figure in the wave that I was interested in. This is Catwoman, also from the Nightfall saga. Catwoman in her purple suit as she was depicted in the 90s. Catwoman wore this suit in her entire solo run. It's about time we got a good size figure of this. 7-inch scale, a little bit shorter than Batman, which is correct. Well articulated and looks fantastic. Here he is next to the DC Essentials figures from Series 1 that I had interest in. I pretty much only collect the Batman and related characters. I didn't pick up any of the DC Essentials figures from Series 2, and at this point I regret not getting Superman. From Series 3, I simply got Cheetah, as she was a gorgeous figure, and I can definitely have her team up with Catwoman in my Batman world from time to time. Here he is, next to the DC Essentials figures from Series 4, a completely Bat-themed wave. And here he is, next to the DC Essentials Red Hood figure. Here he is, next to the entire collection of DC Collectibles Doomsday Clock figures. While these figures are not technically DC Essentials figures, they sure share the same body type and articulation style, so I consider it, if nothing else, to be at least a spin-off of DC Essentials. Now, this is not the first time that DC Direct or DC Collectibles has made a Nightfall line. Many years ago, DC Direct made a Nightfall line that had 5 figures in it. I've got 4 of those 5 figures. Honestly, these figures are gorgeous. Bane is huge, massive, intimidating. Looks great. Catwoman looks absolutely fantastic as well. Really like this Nightwing. He's tall, his colors pop, he's in that sort of 90s mid design to give him this current look. Then we've got the Mask of Tengu Batman on the far right. I got 3 of those guys to use as Lady Shiva thugs or ninjas. In my headcanon, it kind of works because she's one that trained Batman while he was wearing that outfit. They also made an Azrael in his armored Batman suit. I'd really love to track that figure down. He's not on eBay too often, but he doesn't sell for too much when he is. There's also an older Hasbro 6 or 7-inch Azrael Batman I would love to track down as well. And here's another Bane figure that I thought this Batman looked fantastic next to. This is the Mattel Collect and Connect Build-A-Figure DC Universe Classics Bane. This Bane is definitely from his 90s look. He looks great. He's a little bit taller than he should be with the other DC Universe Classics figures, but next to a DC Direct Batman like this, he is perfect. Here he is next to a couple of other Nightfall figures. These are 2 Azrael as Batman figures from Mattel DC Universe Classics. In the comics, he had both a blue and red version of this suit. I would absolutely love to see DC Collectibles make an Essentials version of this Azrael Batman. That would be phenomenal. And like I said before, I would absolutely love to track down both the Hasbro and DC Direct versions. Here he is, next to a Mattel DC Universe Classics Tim Drake Robin. This is Tim Drake, as close as Mattel gave us in the DC Universe Classics line, in the costume he wore in Nightfall. A little bit too short next to this Batman, but it works to a point. Next, let's see how he scales up with some different various Batman figures from different action figure companies. Here he is next to the new McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. He scales up almost perfectly with them. And here he is next to several different NECA Batman figures. NECA makes some of the best Batman figures out there in my opinion. This guy here is another 90s comic Batman from Batman vs. Aliens. He is one of my favorite Batman figures out there. But DC Direct and McFarlane have really put some nice stuff out recently. And then next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles Batman figures. And while they're not exactly Batman figures, here he is next to several different DST or Diamond Select Toys Gotham Bat Allies. Then next to some Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods Batman figures. And now next to several different Mattel DC Universe Classics or Multiverse Batman figures. And here next to some Mafex Batman figures. And then next to some SH Figure Arts Batman figures. So all in all, I must say, I think I'm in love with this Batman figure. This might be my favorite Batman figure out there. He's definitely going to be my top 3. I actually waited a couple days to do this review because I was enjoying this figure so much. I wanted to see if it was going to stick, and it sure has. Every time I walk by, I've got to pick him up, got to pose him, put him next to different Batmans, different classic-looking villains. Really, really enjoying this guy. This is everything I want out of a Batman figure. Brings me back to my childhood reading comics in the 90s. I mean, look at this guy. He's got the long ears, bright blue. He's got a gray suit. He's got the oval around the bat symbol, the capsule utility belt. I mean, this guy is perfect. Absolutely loving him. This guy can also work just fine for your Batman from the 70s or the 80s. He's such a classic, basic look to him, and I love it. I'll tell you in a nutshell everything wrong with this guy. He's got those lines on his gauntlets, very inaccurate to the time period. And he also has 2 fists. Why did you give him 2 fists? At least one gripping hand is completely needed with this guy. Would have been nice to have some accessories like a batarang as well. But really no point with 2 fists. So I must say, this guy is great. If I were to rate this figure, and that's a hard one, because I'm just enjoying him so much, but I'm going to give this guy 9 out of 10. I never really rate action figures that high. I'm not necessarily saying the figure is worth 9 out of 10, but my enjoyment of him pushes him to 9 out of 10 for sure. I cannot recommend this guy enough. It is a dream come true. If they were to make more Nightfall figures, almost every Rogue and Bat Ally are my perfect ideal looks of those characters. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add it to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.